We need to raise the standard and continue to raise the standard from the ground up.
Your past conditioning, your beliefs, you need to dump that and unlearn it and make room and opportunity for new stuff to come in.
If you're feeling that feeling at all within your gut, you need to go with it.
You have to have those people on your team who are willing to accept the change, because change is frustrating. Welcome back to another episode of the Apps and Asphalt podcast. It's been a long time since we've been together to do one. So sorry, everyone. Thank you for bearing with us. For those of you guys who don't remember me, I'm Hayden. Then we got Zach. Zach and David been holding it down the past 2 weeks and putting out a lot of great stuff. And
thanks, man.
I think it's been cool listening, having David come on, because you guys see all the content and stuff, and obviously that's not Zach and I. We're not that talented, so you guys got to see a little bit of David and what he brings to the table, and his story obviously is awesome. So, but nice job, man. It was cool listening to you guys. I was talking about last night the goals won, and I, as much as I think I know you guys, I learn more every time I hear just you guys talking or in different conversations. And
I didn't expect you to come in and tell me like, hey, I listened to your podcast on the way home, like this and this. It was really cool.
Well, I'm a raving fan, man. You should sign something for me. Give me your autograph.
My guy.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So what we're going to do today, coming back, is we're going to jump in and we're going to talk sales. One thing, too, we can kind of give a little recap of our year, and then we'll jump into kind of sales and how that turned out for us. And then towards the end, we'll talk about some things that in this quote-unquote off-season you could really be doing to set yourself up for success. I think, what'd you say at the beginning, the groundwork you put in?
Everything we are doing right now will show in Q3, Q4.
Yeah. Yep.
And I've noticed it with myself. I think subconsciously we all know it. It's, are you listening to like what you feel, or are you neglecting that,
Yep, 100%. So with that being said too, like, why don't you carry on and give kind of your perspective on how MPP's year was this year?
Sometimes, like Mike Tyson said, he's like, we've all got a plan until you get punched in the face.
Hitting them out,
like,
yeah.
You get into the ring and you're like, last year I was like, man, we were coming off such a high, like we hit record-breaking sales, gross profit margin was up. Everybody was like very in their zone, synergetic, if that's even a word.
That's a word.
All right. And I feel like we were on a high going into 23, and I think a lot of people probably were. And what happened was like, we probably got a little complacent. Everyone was trying to hit home runs going into 24 or 23 from 22.
Yeah. And
we kind of took our eye off of the prize for a little bit. Like what made us, which was, we were looking at our gross profit margin average and our average job size, and our average job size $60,000. We were bidding so much stuff that was, $500,000, $1 million, $500,000, $1 million, or plus, just trying to hit home runs going into 23. And like, we had a tough year because we missed a lot of things at the beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, we missed a lot.
There was some huge opportunities that unfortunately we lost.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Typically, like, I like to see $1 to $2 million in rollover work going into the oncoming year. It looks good for banks. It looks good for us, and we were off. We were off, and part of it was because we produced so much the previous year, but part of it was because like everyone was just trying to hit like big ones nonstop.
Yeah, the off-season bidding was probably not the right approach to where we needed, and like you said, those big ones that you lose, especially early on, are deflating. And when you come into the beginning of the season, having sales ahead of where it needs to be, at least by a couple $1 million, having that backlog is so important, because number one, when you bring your guys back from off season, you have to have work lined up so that they are ready to go. And, if you don't have loyal employees and loyal guys out in the field that are willing to stick with you when maybe your schedule is not completely jam-packed right out the gate, you're going to lose guys quick.
You'll lose them, or you're going to be sucking wind because you have to keep them employed, and so you're going to give them you're giving them shop time. So hours that are not going against projects, that hurts too. And so it's like balance. It's a really tough balancing act at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, you got phones going off the hook here. But anyways, it's out there. Anyways, it's what we've seen is going into this next year, we have to start being more strategic about the approach that we're going to have. And I would agree. It was a hard year for sure this year. It was something night and day. My kind of analysis and recap of the year was, it started off definitely in a different position. Like I said, we produced everything that we sold last year.
In
In 22.
Yep.
So, we were producing all the way up till, Christmas, New Year's time, even in the beginning of the year too, in January. So, that's great, but that also puts a little bit of a predicament. Like, okay, so now you got to get the sales and you got to get stuff ready to go and build your backlog in the season that you're about to start. And so, beginning of the work for whatever reason this year was a lot slower for customers to sign contracts. And so that obviously puts stress on everybody. But, as it always does, every single year it hits in waves. And what actually happened was we ended up creating too much of a bottleneck to where we got so much work in at once, and it was these kind of jobs that needed to get produced before school season. It was a bunch of schools. We closed.
Yep.
Like 2 different districts, probably.
We already had one district. We closed 2 more. And if you get schoolwork, it's great, but the problem is that a lot of it is not allotted to quarter 2. So it's allotted to quarter 3. And so you have not necessarily June, you got July to produce the work. July and a little bit of August. And so with the rain that we had, the short little window that we had, like, it was a perfect storm for us to like start to getting slipped up. And what we had to do is get creative, we had to get creative and figure out what we needed to do to produce. Shout out to everybody that helped us along the way. Good subcontractors, good partners. You.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, coming in clutch.
It was a full team effort, man. There was middle of the year, it was hard. It was like, I remember driving home some days and my head was just
defeated
and fried. And, you have, during those hard moments, you have the doubt, but at the same time, it's like, you really deep down know that time will pass and everything will be okay. But it's like, holy shit, like, how are we going to get through that?
For those of you who don't know, when Hayden says stuff like that, it's like, it's really hard because you'll call him and he's like, yeah, man, everything's good. Yeah. And he's so positive. But I could even tell, like, throughout the year, I was like, man, like, this dude's feeling it. And we all were. Like, it was a really tough 23. But, through the silver lining of it is we focused on everything that we had, right? So every job we had, we were like, how do we juice this thing? How do we make the most out of everything that we've got currently?
Yeah.
And so we juiced. What ended up being a problem ended up becoming a huge silver lining for us in the end.
Yeah.
More opportunity than any of us could have imagined. It showed us like what we were really capable of. It showed me that we were more than just Zach and PP. We are a whole team, and everybody was like firing. Nobody stopped.
Yeah. So we all learned a ton. Like, and that's what's so beautiful about having a team is like you pick something up from everybody. So for like you were able to teach the whole team how to like put in the extra 5% effort to win, to gain a couple points on a project.
And they all count, man.
Yeah, and they do all count. So it's like instead of just, taking something at face value, turning it over, expect it to be done, put a little more, 5% more creative effort and thought into it. And what ended up happening this year was, we fell short of our revenue goal, our total sales goal.
By a couple $1,000,000.
Yep. But our net profit at the end of the year, our gross profit margin increased by a couple $1,000,000.
Yes.
So we got better and got more efficient. At the end of the day, the top line's great, but really the bottom line's what matters the most. And
I agree.
So by having that, we were able to get better, get more efficient. And so it's just, that's one thing I learned from you is just like you said, taking the extra little bit of effort and thought, no matter like how much stuff you got going on, especially when it comes to, hundreds of thousands of dollars, like millions of dollars, like take the extra effort to figure out a way to win, make the extra phone call.
For sure.
Get the extra, quote from the mix supplier, whatever it is to get that extra couple points.
Absolutely. And so we're in January right now. Last January, I look back and I'm like, what were we doing? Were we having sales meetings? Were we doing everything that we were doing previously that led to all this great success? And the answer is no. I mean, everybody had kind of like, oh, we're NPP, we're doing this, we're doing this. We've seen some pretty good success and everything, even through Apps and Asphalt. And so we had a little bit of a big chest going into last year.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, like, it's good that we felt that pressure because you can't be complacent,
100%. Sometimes winning can be the worst thing for you.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And
Yep.
Megan and I just got done watching, you got to watch this if you have Prime, and everybody needs to watch it, about Coach Prime, Deion Sanders here. They follow him around. It's almost like Hard Knocks, but for CU. And, you go into practice, go into meetings and all that with him. And, like, we were almost like the Buffs, the first 3 games, they were kicking ass and, we're making such big traction. And then they got complacent and let off the gas. And the rest of the season was a constant push to get back to it.
Yep.
And you lose a lot of like morale. You lose a lot of steam when you do fall backwards and get complacent. So
For sure.
Like, bottom line, you got to stay hungry.
You got to
year round.
And like, it comes back to, man, an object in motion stays in motion. I don't know who created that law, but maybe
Newton's law.
Newton law.
There you go.
All right, shout out Newton.
Big Newton's law.
No, but honestly, so what we're doing this year, and like we've created so much momentum just by doing it. It's the little things. It's like it's prospecting, it's calling, it's getting back to the basics that made us successful at the very beginning. So, figuring out who you want to be doing business with, making those phone calls, following up with text messages, emails, whatever you need to do to like push, pull, and claw, because this is where everybody is chilling. They're enjoying their time. They're enjoying some time. This is where you make your distance, where you create distance. And, Ben Newman always says it really well. It's like, don't be seduced by success. So if you came off a great year, like somebody's aiming for you. And believe me, like I'm telling you, somebody is always gunning for your back. You gotta stay ahead of the curve.
Yeah. You know more than anybody about that for sure. Well, and even that, what was it, Dr. Gabrielle Lyon during that conference we were at was talking about how the recovery time after a big win is it takes a long time to kind of recover, get you back to normal, because people get such an adrenaline rush and endorphin rush. So learn to control your emotional state to stay like, this is what we do. Like, we're not.
Don't let your highs get too high.
Yeah, because then you'll be at an even lower place than where you're at.
You need to make it part of like the expectation and just continue to move forward.
100%. Yeah.
Yep.
It's been cool learning that and kind of seeing that through fruition. So, I'm grateful for 2023. It was BITCH, and I am just I'm glad it's over with. We learned a ton. I learned a ton. I grew, made tons of mistakes, but we learned and we hit goals that we didn't even really set. And really, I think found out like who was about it on our team,
Absolutely.
who wasn't.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
that's just
Exactly.
how it is, man.
Yep.
So going into like this next year, I think
Going into
20. Well, I
this
guess
year.
this year. Oh my gosh.
I know. I say it too. I'm like, yeah, next year. Well, we're in it.
I always do that too, like the rollover dates or the months. I like send a Zoom meeting for next week, and I sent it for 12/9 instead of 1/9.
Yeah.
And thank God you didn't say nothing, but it was to a client. But anyways, I think the value of data and metrics is so important to start tracking, even if like you're a small guy and you're a solo salesperson, you go out and produce the jobs. Like you have to start tracking data as if you have a team, because what that does allows you your planning and your goal setting to be more effective. So
Yep.
like what we did, the exercise of having everyone pull the paper out, and we had our average job size, your number of jobs that were sold. We had our number of proposals per week to send and per year, how many bidding weeks average per year, like giving people the roadmap that they can actually see, a huge number that we throw out and we expect them to hit is more attainable, but you just got to work backwards towards it. So
You do.
make sure you're tracking your data for sure.
And for us, it was like, okay, for this average job size and this closing ratio and this goal, you need to put out this many proposals. And some people were like, that's a lot. That's too much. That's crazy. And it's like, okay, cool. Well, that doesn't mean that's that. It's like, what do we need to adjust to make it more obtainable? What do we need to do? There's nothing wrong with knowing what the formula is. And if you don't like it, the problem is if you don't know the formula.
Yeah.
If you don't pay attention to it, then you've got problems.
Yep.
Then you've got big problems. It's knowing what you're up against. It's like going into a war and you're like, oh, they have all these different things and we don't have them. Well, what are we gonna do to correct it? So
That's it, man. You have to have some sort of guidelines. And even like, we'll go back to that. We had guys that were kind of concerned about how many proposals they had to send at the average job size that that the company had. What you don't understand is, or what you got to understand is like, it's not always like one way or the other. It's not as cut and dry as that, because you're going to send out proposals that are, 240 grand, which takes up 4 proposals off of your, number of proposals list. So it all balances out, but you need some sort of roadmap for yourself or your sales team to start working towards.
yep.
And it's not the end all be all. And also like training your guys too, which what we're gonna do this year is structuring their days better.
Mm-hmm.
And we sent out 2022. We sent out like 1,200, 1,300 proposals as a team. And we were probably right around the same as this year as we were last year with less guys. But what the problem is you send out that many proposals, and if you're not using your time wisely, you're not following up. So you have a ton of opportunity that's just sitting there in your bid sent that you don't know if it's won, lost, if
Pending.
they've tabled it, pending. They're going to relook at it. So now's a good time too to go and follow up on your old leads that you may have missed follow up on. Or you can say, hey, I just want to go through and see if you guys are still looking at this project next year. Did it get completed last year? What are you guys' kind of thoughts? And I'm happy to put together new numbers for you so that way you guys have it for your budget.
Yep.
So those are great ways.
There's nothing worse than taking your time, going and meeting with a client, scoping a parking lot, doing all this great stuff, putting together an illustrious bid, and then sending it and forgetting about it. Like, that is the biggest waste of time you can possibly have.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean, like, there's only so many hours in the day, so many hours in the, minutes in the month, year, whatever. And it's like, you have to make the most of them. If you're not making sure that like what you sent was accurate and that the customer received it, at the very least, make sure that they received it. Sometimes stuff ends up in spam.
Yep.
You have no guideline to go off of. And so you're really stuck,
You're stuck, and like you said, you just waste time, man. That's why, any sales guru talks about like follow-up is so important.
Yep.
And the best salespeople are the ones that follow up the best. And it's not like the traditional, like, hey, just checking in on this.
Exactly.
Let me know if you want to talk. Like, get creative with your follow-up. But
What do you like? What do you like for your follow-up?
For me, I try to hit him on different platforms, I guess. So, I'll try to, do an email, follow up, a couple days, a week later, whatever. I'll do a text, then I'll do a call. Then, I'll even message them or like something on their LinkedIn. Like, the different approaches and hitting still pings them, but it's not like a consistent annoying. Remember when I posted, what was that, last year?
Mm-hmm.
That guy was like, hey, just checking on this. Hey, just checking on this. Every day he sent me the same email. And if you use the word follow up when you're doing a follow up email,
It repels people.
It's you have to approach it differently. So those are ways that I like doing it. The call is always the best. Like everyone gets so many emails nowadays that it's not as effective. Like even email campaign too, I think is the effectiveness of that has turned off because people are almost like desensitized to it. It's nothing new. And what's not common now is picking up the phone.
I agree. Picking up the phone, a video recording.
Yeah.
Showing them something like we're human. People can empathize with humanity and just like, compassion and stuff like that. So like letting them know like it's more than just a sale. Like, hey, I'm here for you. Just I want to follow up, but more than anything, like, hey, this is Zach. I'm with NPP, and this is what we did for you guys, and I wanted to check in. Really, really see like how they're doing as well, not just like this from a sales standpoint.
Yeah, and that's how you build the relationships.
For sure,
you have to talk to them, and
the
only way to really talk to them is face to face or on the phone or a Zoom call.
Yep.
And, one thing, too, that we're going to work on and be better at this year is prospecting.
Mm-hmm.
We found this year, and that's another place where we got complacent is, we established ourselves here in the Denver metro area and, Colorado. So we get a ton of repeat business. I'm not going to lie, we've lost customers before throughout the years. It happens, like stuff that you can't control, stuff you could control, like it happens. But for the most part, we had the same clientele. So the revenue that we hit this year, probably 90% of it was repeat business.
Yep.
So what that taught us was if we want to take this to the next level, then we have to throw in prospecting because we have essentially guaranteed X amount of dollars that we can almost bank on that's going to come in next year. But if we want to hit another level, then we're going to have to find new opportunity.
Yep.
So, and I'm going to show you what I found on Spot On Site the other day, how you can prospect for new stuff.
I love it.
It's sick.
Nice.
So,
nice.
But that's something too that it's not comfortable. I don't think any sales guy truly loves prospecting, cold calling, but it's essential. And you need that new pipeline. It's just like going back to the Dion thing, they have a full recruiting division because they need that new lifeline and blood flow of players and talent coming in constantly.
For sure. When you're prospecting, what are some of the key points that you think that you need to touch on?
Yeah. Key points really comes back to questions. Questions are the most important thing, and asking the right questions. So, if you're approaching a new customer, like asphalt, concrete, it's not sexy. Nobody's thinking about it all the time. It's a needs-based stuff. But what you can approach it is, I like doing it by like the experiences with other contractors they've had.
Yep.
Because contractors are all stereotyped, whether you do HVAC, whether you do you're an electrician, whether you do what we do. We're all under the stereotype of being poor communicators, lazy, old school, pen, paper, clipboard, stuff like that. So for me, I like asking questions like, what kind of properties do you manage? What are your biggest pain points with these properties? And then, when it comes to your maintenance side, do you have a plan in place? Do you know how to create a plan? Do you have any preferred contractors that you've been using? If so, what do you like about them? What don't you like about them? So really getting their kind of feedback and letting them talk and tell you everything that they need, because through their answers, they'll tell you exactly how they want you to treat them.
Totally. And if I completely agree with you, if you don't feel comfortable doing that, the easiest thing is like, hey, who's in charge of your maintenance? And can we jump on your vendors list? A lot of times they're like, yeah, man, I mean, like, here's how you get on our vendors list. Send us a COI, send us a W-9. We'll let you know when.
The door, though.
Yeah, we'll let you know when there's something to bid. I really like asking, like, what's your biggest pain point right now? Like, give us that problem. We'll fix it. Like, do you have any parking lot issues? We'll do what we need to do.
Yeah. And it's like, you don't have to get creative with, I think in this business, you don't have to get creative with how you are labeling what you do.
Yep.
Like for our software, like we got to come up with like the right messaging, like we streamline estimating. That takes a lot of thought process, but
Yep.
with a needs-based service, it's like we do asphalt and concrete maintenance. If you got potholes, if you got trip hazards, we fix them for you.
Yep.
So it doesn't have to be cute. Like people want to get straight to the point when it comes to this, because again, it's needs-based versus a want or a nice to have, which
Yes.
is why I like selling Spot on Site and selling gym memberships when I was doing that.
Is so much.
It's way more difficult because it's consistent follow-up. It's not, people don't need it. So like you have to find that 1% that's looking for that specific thing at the right time in order to capitalize on it. So using that to your repair or using that to your benefit, but another thing you can do is like set up, a service you could offer is even creating budget plans. We've talked about
providing value.
Yeah, providing value, like free value. If you don't have a lot of leads coming in and you want to go after a huge company, and what you can do is do a simple Google search. 9 times out of 10, they'll have all the properties they manage. Maybe go to 2 or 3 of them and say, create a nice assessment. Tell them, hey, this year you have a couple potholes that need to get fixed. You can probably use a seal coat, and create a multi-year plan and just send it to them. And when you send it to them, give them a call too and let them know, hey, I just sent you this. If they don't answer, it's a great voicemail to say, hey, I sent you a pavement evaluation. This is how I think you can maintain your properties. Let's talk about it. Let's go over it. Want to introduce myself. So
Love it.
There's ways to get creative with your prospecting, but it is so freaking important.
Totally.
So what are for you, like using, we obviously talk about Spot on Site a lot, but like this is with whatever software program you're using, you can get creative with it. I would like you to kind of tell them about how you prospected for, there's a big guy that was down in Florida, I think, that managed a whole bunch of properties like up in Longmont and stuff, and you created like a Loom video of it.
Yep. So I was on site. I used Spot on Site to kind of go through their property and show them what we were doing. I wanted to show him Spot on Site, but also what we can do for him as a contractor, and kind of how we look out for our clients. And basically, I put this video together. It was quick, down and dirty, and then I just sent it to him through LinkedIn. He actually replied like within minutes and was like, "This is so cool, thank you so much." And then we ended up, jumping on it from that point, and we bid tons of properties, ended up doing a lot of work with them. But that is a very quick and easy way just to like grab someone's attention. Like, say you go into the same place or you own something, like you see it day in and day out, and somebody does something for that place without you asking for it, and they just send it to you. that's going to grab your attention. That's different, you know, that's different than, hey, asking for opportunity. That's providing value like right off the get-go.
Yep.
Yeah.
Give, then finally you'll receive when they feel you've gave enough.
Exactly.
So, switching gears, like we're constantly looking for talent, like for MPP, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But like we've seen, we have new estimator Hunter who's just stepping in and
He's a hunter
killing
for
it.
real.
Yeah,
For real.
yeah. So
Guard your client.
yeah. What do you think? What do you think makes a good estimator or pavement consultant in this space?
I think it is he wants it, right?
Yeah.
Like he's willing to take the extra steps that some people may not be willing to do. Like he'll spend his Saturday scoping when other people aren't. You know, just because he knows that's putting him ahead in the week.
Yep.
He will he'll take that late evening meeting. It's doing the extra two things that like most people are like, I can do it, but I probably don't need to. I'm just gonna go ahead and pass. Like those things make so much of a difference. It's like the separation piece for everybody.
Yeah.
You know? And so like when you feel like you've done enough, you've always got more in the tank.
Yeah, you got the 10% and the 10% extra, and the 10% adds up over time for sure.
I think that's what he does. You know, I feel like that's like his separation piece.
The extra effort.
Yeah.
I think like for anybody, if you're looking to hire another salesperson or an estimator coming to your company, I would encourage you guys to kind of think outside the box too. Like you don't always have to find the people with years of experience. Sometimes that could be the biggest detriment because they're stuck in their own ways. You got a guy who's been doing something for 30, 40 plus years. They're not going to want to change, or you can't mold them into, your company, your process, unless they are that kind of person. But more times than not, guys at that age with that many years of experience tend to have their own way or recipe that they're not changing for anybody.
Yep.
Versus somebody you have that has the characteristics, they're hungry, they're disciplined, they're committed, they got good focus,
Yep.
and they're pretty much got to be fearless. If you got those guys or gals, 2024, excuse me.
Or, guy, gals, gal guys, whatever.
Whatever you want
He,
to call
his,
them.
her, cat. Cats, shiz, is.
Shiz is.
he's.
Anyways,
Them.
as we digress. Whatever that person is doing before, if they have those characteristics, you can mold them. You just got to have that process, and you got to have, the playbook for them. Anybody can learn this skill. It's not rocket science what we do. Sometimes it feels like that. Scheduling, I think, is rocket science. But
For real.
other than that, for the most part, selling is not. It's just you got to be, have certain characteristics that other contractors that have been doing it for a while don't have, and more times than not, they'll probably be your best employees.
Sales typically fixes any problem that you have.
Yeah.
Like, grow the top line so much that everything underneath doesn't matter. You got to capitalize on everything that you've got, but like if it's there, you have opportunity to correct it.
Yeah.
Make it better.
Let's talk about like estimating, because it kind of changes throughout the year depending on where you're at. Like bidding stuff early on in the year versus towards the end of the year. What's some differences that you notice?
You're gonna make me leak some of the secrets, but beginning of the year, don't be hitting home runs. I mean, get stuff in the door. You have to drop margin to get stuff in the door. Creating like an energy about the product that you're serving, right? I love to drop those little nuggets off to clients like, hey, like we can do that while we're doing this project. And like it subconsciously tells them like, oh, they're doing that. This company's doing this. Like we should be doing that.
Yeah.
We should be using these guys because this company uses them. Like those are some of the things that I think that you could be doing that are really like moving the needle forward for us this time of year. Once you start building that momentum, you can start hiking your margin back up, you know, June, July, August. But right now it's dropping the margin, making stuff happen,
Yep.
getting shit in the door. So,
I agree. And, the beginning of the year is, you want to stack your backlog. You never know what the beginning of the season is going to hold for you. So for us, we hit a whole month and we had an all rain. And so we were already behind a month to produce. So but what that gives you the opportunity to is just continue to stack work and get ready so that way you're booked out for at least, a month, maybe a month and a half, and you don't have to worry about that aspect of it. Versus the end of the year, it's kind of a supply and demand. And as we know, we always have the last minute guys or customers that want to come in and do something when they had all this time back, but they want to get it done,
Yep.
the week before Thanksgiving. Well, there's a price that comes with that.
Totally.
And it's I think before you even say yes to those opportunities, what I've learned is we need to make sure and do the extra work of seeing if you're going to use, we don't mill, so I need to make sure a milling sub is even going to be working those weeks before we even bid it.
Yep.
Same thing, are the asphalt plants or the concrete plants going to be running or open?
He is like that. I'm more of like a get it in, we'll figure it out.
Ready, fire, aim.
Ready, fire, aim. But it takes a balance too. It's really, really good to have. Really good to have. He's my check. We check and balance.
The yin and yang,
Yes.
baby. So be sure that you're doing the work up front. Also, make sure your mixed quote prices are up to date. Have somebody assigned and dedicated to getting all those put
Yep.
in and plugged in for you, because that can make or break it.
For sure.
Another thing too is locking in, if you have rollover work, maybe locking in some material pricing from last year that you can just call. Our concrete supplier will lock it in no matter what.
Everybody needs the work right now.
Yep.
There's always something that you can negotiate with. I just don't settle. Don't settle with oh yeah, this is our price.
Yeah.
No, everybody wants to say, what are you going to do? Are you going to put a deposit on it to lock that in? Whatever you need to do, just do it.
Yep.
Just
do it. Nike.
Hey.
So I think that was pretty good, dude. I think that was good. Anything else you want to add?
No, man. No, I'm looking forward to dropping more stuff, man. I feel like we took some time off because we needed to get through what we were dealing with, but at the same time, it made me learn and take some stuff deeper.
Yeah.
So I've got a lot more stuff. We've got a lot more stuff that we can touch on this year, and I'm excited for another year of Abs and Asphalt.
Me
man.
too, man. I'm excited to get back in the podcast, back in the studio, dude. I missed it. I feel bad because I know there's a lot of people, I guess, a good amount of people that really enjoy the episodes, and we appreciate the supporters and listeners, and again, apologize for the delay, but we'll be back. We're going to try to do it more consistently. Maybe if it's not every week, maybe every other week, we'll figure that out, but sticking to it, and we should have a lot more time under our belt. But yeah, personally for our paving company, we're hiring sales guys, estimators, pavement consultants, whatever you want to call it. So like I said, if you have, if you got the characteristics, you're a motivated person, you want to make a lot of money, you're a great communicator, you're disciplined, wherever you're at, even if you live across the country, let's talk, because we'd love to get you guys in and just continue to add to our team. We have a great, solid group of people with us right now, and it's only going up from here. So we'd love to have you guys check us out at nationalpavementpartners.com. And thank you guys for another episode of Apps and Asphalt.
My man.